Uh, I hope we are together.
Yes, Prof.
Yes, sir.
All
We're
right.
hearing you.
Yes, sir. We're hearing you,
Um,
sir.
like I said, we
Jesus.
we have talked about the what do you call it?
Data collection.
Data collection, and under that one, we talked about the research methods. We talked about the questionnaire. Is that not true?
Yes.
Uh-huh. And I say we also talk about the interview where we discuss about structured and unstructured interview. I think the area that we didn't talk about is the observation method. Did we talk about the observation methods?
Not yet.
Not yet. Okay. So let's talk about the observation methods. Um, all right. Once again, good morning. As we all know and all aware, the the research in any given discipline is meant to provide solution to certain problems. And in trying to address that, you don't just go and do that haphazardly. There are certain procedures that one must follow in order to achieve all those things. And one of these is to make sure you have a relevant methodology or methods of data collection that you will use to elicit relevant information. And one of these is like it goes alongside of the questionnaire and observation and interviews. We also have what we call observation method. And observation is a fundamental part of social life, whether we like it or not. Things are happening around us, we observe them, we see them, we make meaning out of them. And it's critical to many forms of social interaction and work. Therefore, it is necessary to distinguish between observation done to accomplish everyday life and work, and that one done to understand them. You understand? So there's a difference between the kind of observation that we carry out in our daily life and the one that we carry out in research engagement. There are two different things. In research engagement, we do observe to understand the phenomenon we are observing. Then here again, observation is an inherent part of many types of research. It forms part of laboratory experiments as might as observed in many other places. In social research, there are two parameters alone with observation that can be categorized as a research tool. The more familiar typology is based on the degree of the participant by the researcher in what is being studied. The other is the structure around the level of awareness subjects have been observed. You understand? Like I see, the major issue there has to do with the degree of participant, the degree of the participation by the researcher in what is being studied. And number two, it has to do with their awareness of the signal. So, in trying to select the people you are going to observe, you have to make sure that the people you are going to observe, the individual concern, are part and parcel of what the research undertaken, the observation elements. And number two, the people should be the ones aware of the subject that is being observed. That is very, very important. Observation in research is done or is being carried out in two major types or two major dimensions, depending on the nature of the research you are carrying out. And there are two basic types of observation. The first one is what we call participant observation. Participant observation. And participant observation actually is the kind of observation where the observer partake in the activities of the group he is observing. The observer is a member, operates as a member of the setting in which the observation is taking place. In other words, if you want to adopt the method of participant observation in carrying out research, you have to do that in such a way that you become part and parcel of the group. You do everything they do. If you want, for instance, to observe the operation of a cult group, Whatever they do, you have to do it. If they drink blood, you drink blood. If they eat human flesh, you eat human flesh. Just for you to understand the contents of what they are observing. I know that one. That's why this one is being regarded as among dangerous forms of observation, because it is usually used in such a way that the student or the members of the group you have been observing will not know why you are with them. Will not know why you are with them. Just like this one whereby you have somebody, we have cases like that where you have undercover investigation where an investigator will come to a particular environment, register like every other member, engage in everything you're doing, but it's not part of you. Let me tell you one story. I had a friend when I went for my NYC. Just towards the end of our NYC that I realized that that person was only there for a particular investigation, for a particular mission. But he was not a copper. But he was registered by NYC. And NYC knew about him, but they can't tell anybody. So it happens like that. Sometimes you can find them going into the tertiary institution. They will register as every student, but they are not students. But they will do everything the students are doing. And they will be observing and be taking notes. They will be taking silent records of events and happenings within the environment where they are doing their observation. So in participant observation, the observer may have been a long-standing member of the setting, or he may join the group for the sole purpose of carrying out the observation. In this kind of observation, that's participant observation, observers participate in the everyday life that they are trying to understand. This contrasts with the observation where the researcher stands aloof, a form of observation that is part of obstructive research, where the intention is to engage in research on known to subject in order to avoid the reactive effect. Of course, you see, the point here is that in participant observation, there's a difference between the one you can just sit down, be in a particular environment, only be watching and be taking note. This one, you do everything they do. If they are going for exercise, you join them as their member. In fact, if there's an avenue for people to register with them, you go and register with them like you are part of them. That is what is required. You understand? And it is mostly used where you are doing that. You can disclose your identity actually, but it is mostly used where you are doing the research covertly. On that basis, we have that this observation is divided into overt and covert participant observation. So participant observation is divided into two. We have overt and we also have covert. In the overt participant observation, you can join a group, tell them why you are there. You understand? Tell them why you are there. You are with them. This is your mission. Then they will continue to cooperate with you. But in the case of covert participant observation, you will not disclose your identity to them. For example, if you are a staff of DSS trying to understand what is happening among students in Angwan-Lambu students' residential area, you go there as every student, rent an apartment, and you'll be living with them. They will not know your mission. You make a lot of friends. You can even generate some resources that you can be using so that you can attract the attention of people who will be coming to you. You can be relating with them, sharing some information with them, so that you can also get the basic information you want to get from them, without them knowing this is why you are doing the investigation. But overt participant observation is essential in situations where it is impossible to pass as an ordinary member. You understand me? There are some situations whereby it is difficult. You can't go there as an ordinary member. And when specialized forms of behavior are required, particularly in occupational settings such as when studying police force. You are not a police officer. You are not a police officer. So if you want to study police officers, for you to be able, it is difficult for you to act like them because you are not like them. if you want to join them and act like them, you have a problem because there are so many ethics, there are so many culture of their work that you don't know. And to get to a point where you can easily be exposed because when certain things are mentioned and your reaction to a large extent will reveal to them that yes, this person is not part of us. And when they realize that, you are in trouble. You understand? So under that one, you can use over. You should make them know that this is why you are there, and this is why work-based ethnography has been done covertly, mostly in settings where the occupational tasks are menial and low skilled. In the non-participant observation, actually, the observer is not a member of the setting. We're talking about non-participant observation now. We say that we have participant observation where people or the researcher will participate in the group. And in doing that, you can do that overtly, you can do that covertly. The overt one is done where you go and declare your identity, tell the members of the group that you are observing, this is why you are among them. But in the case of covert, you don't disclose your identity. You go there as an ordinary member of the group. But we are saying that there are certain situations where you can hardly join and fit into a particular group because they have a specialized way of life, or that if you don't actually understand what they do, at a certain point in time they can easily identify that you are not part of them, and that becomes a problem to you. But in the non-participant observation, the observer is not a member of the setting in which the observer is taking place. He observes the behavior from a distance. It's also to be taking certain notes of what is happening. This kind of observation is done in such a way that you are taking account of all the happenings for the purpose of trying to understand the meaning, the content, and the character of all of these things you are observing. And it's not involved, that the observer is not involved in the behavior being observed. Under the non-participant observation, you are not involved in whatever you are observing. You are not involved in it. You only to observe and take account of whatever you are observing. So this is another method, and it's a qualitative. You use this method when you are using qualitative research. It's not in all kinds of research you use participant observation. It is used in qualitative research, purely qualitative research. You understand? Like what I told you earlier, in quantitative approach, that's where you will be required to generate information in a large form from a large group, and under that one you'll be forced to go statistical, to use things like frequency distribution, which is what we're going to discuss next week on how to analyze the data from quantitative instruments. Now, the observation methods has a number of advantages. Number one of the advantages is that the description of a great deal about behavioral pattern provides information concerning what our behavior are found under what kind of circumstance. Yes, the description of a great deal about behavioral pattern provides information concerning what type of behavior are found under what kind of circumstances. Because to a large extent, and while you are looking at certain situation, you have to look at the behavior and the circumstances surrounding the behavior. Because we are meant to understand that human beings do not only act on their own, do not only act just like that. There are certain forces behind their action. And therefore, while you are studying, you are looking at the action, you should also consider the circumstances that led them to act the way they are acting or the way they are acted. That is very, very important. Secondly, in some cases, it is the only feasible method by which to gather information. E.g., some researcher with children or schizophrenic persons might not be possible with interview or questionnaire, because mostly actually this kind of method is used under health distance situation. Like the case of schizophrenic persons, you would like to observe what they are doing, their reaction. This is mostly in psychological study, and that has to do with neuropsychiatric experiences of the patients in neuropsychiatric medical setting. So the third advantage is where there are inadequacy of other methods. That is, if for example the other methods you have used cannot give you enough information to address your problem, observation method provides more generally able result than other methodologies. It is very possible to use questionnaire, use interview, and yet you couldn't get in-depth knowledge of what you intend to study. Under that situation, you require observation method also to address your issue. But observation method has some disadvantages. It has a lot of disadvantages because number one is time consuming. It takes time, yes. Number two, it is very risk. If you are studying, for instance, a group under covered of participant organization and you know eventually realize that you're doing them, you are in trouble. If it is a kind of maybe cult group, they end up killing you. You understand? So it is always risk. You involve a lot of risks in doing that. So that is what we mean by participant observation. It has to do with a kind of approach where the researcher go to the environment where he's supposed to observe one or two things based on the requirement of his research, and observe. While observing, he takes notes and take account of the event that has taken place. But in doing that, like I told you, we have these two different types. We have participant and non-participant. The participant is the one that you can go and participate in the group. And non-participant is the one that you don't need to participate in their group, but you can be observing everything that is happening. The one you participate, you do everything they do. You are just like their member. Engage with them in everything they do. But the non-participant is the one that no, you don't have to participate in their group. You just observe and stay away from them. So, like I told you also, the participant observation is also further divided into covered and overt. The covered is the one that you use where you declare you hide your identity to the group that you are observing. You hide your identity to the setting where the observation is carried out. But under the overt, yes, you come to them and say, okay, please, I want to be with you from now to the next 2-3 months. This is why I'm here. I'm here to understand the way you do your things, to understand, maybe you're trying to understand the kind of complex situation in a particular environment. You can use observation method. You can ask them, okay, what is actually the source of conflict between group A and group B? You can observe. You can stay for a certain period and observe what is happening. Do you understand? That is actually feasible. Come inside. So, as I was saying, so that is the advantage and the advantage of the participant observation. Then let's also look at another form of observation. I don't know whether we have discussed about in-depth interview. Hello?
Yes, Prof.
We have discussed about in-depth interview, Ko?
I think so.
Yeah, I think we have done that. But there is one thing that we did not discuss under that one. Have we discussed the process of conducting in-depth interview? You know, it's one thing to know and you want to know the processes involved, the procedure you follow.
Yes.
But I don't think we have to discuss about the procedure for conducting in-depth interview. So let's look at these processes one after the other, so that tomorrow when you are going out for your research, you will not have problem trying to follow step by step and trying to generate data using in-depth interview methods. So the process of conducting the interview. Now, the process of conducting the interview follows the same general process as is followed for other research. The first thing in the process is what we call the plan. You need to have your plan. Am I communicating?
Yes.
In the process of conducting the interview, you need to first of all have your plan, and this plan revolves around the idea of identifying the stakeholders who will be involved in the study. Who are the people you are interested in? You need to identify them. Number two, you need to identify the kind of information you need from them. Are you following? The first one under the plan is to identify the stakeholders you want to interview. Number two is the kind of information you want from them. Then you list the stakeholders to be interviewed. After identifying, you list them. We have different groups. So identify stakeholders group from national, facility, and beneficial level, and then identify individual within those groups. It's one to identify that I want to select someone from group A, group B, group C. You can't interview all members of your group, and you have to identify one person to run a group or two persons to run a group. Am I communicating? So that is very, very important. Then the next thing is what? To ensure that the research will follow national and international ethical research standards. There has to be a standard, including review of ethical research committees. You must follow the ethical standard. Don't go and ask questions that you're not supposed to ask. Don't ask questions that you're not supposed to ask. Do you understand? So the first thing in the process of the interview is to have your plan. Like I said earlier, the plan has to do identification of the stakeholders, identification of the information you want from them. Am I communicating? The stakeholders who the various groups you want to select from. Then having done that, then identify the people you want to bring out of each of the group, because you can't interview all of the group. Usually, in-depth interview is used where you don't need to interact with multiple. When you have a small group of people you have to interact with, that's when you use in-depth interview and other qualitative approach to research. The second stage, having come with your plan, which involves identification, the second stage has to do with development of the instrument. And this has to do with the idea of coming up with the what? The interview guide, in-depth interview guide. That's your instrument. There has to be a guide. For instance, number one, you have to develop an interview protocol, the rules that guide the administration and implementation of interview. You have to define the rules, the protocol, how you should follow it. It should be clearly defined. Put simple. When look at it from the other level, these are the instructions that are followed for each researcher. They are just like instructions to ensure consistency between interviewees and interviewer. The following instruction for the interviewer should be included in the protocol. What to say to interviewees when setting up the interview, what to say to the interviewees when beginning the interview, including ensuring informed consent and confidentiality. You must tell them that, yes, I want to conduct an interview with you. The person must give you the approval. And you must ensure him that, yes, whatever you are going to tell me, it will be treated with utmost confidentiality. So that you don't go and say, okay, Dr. Yusuf has told me that is wrong. It's unethical. Do you understand? And what to do during the interview? Example, take notes. You need to identify. Take note. I'm going to take. I remember when I went to conduct an interview with some staff of the Nasarawa prisons. I told them that I'm going to record our performance. They say no. So if I don't mention it to them, and I just went ahead and started recording, it's against the ethical rules of research. They have to know that I'm recording them. It's just like a call. When you're calling somebody, his call on speaker, you have to tell him that you're calling on speaker. Ideally, but I want to say that most of us take this for granted. It's not correct. If you are putting somebody's call on speaker, tell him that your call is on speaker. Because somebody may not want to tell you something if he realizes that the call he is having with you is on speaker. I don't know what I'm communicating. So you have to tell him. So the same thing applies to all these kind of things. So you need to come up with the instrument and the instruction, the guide, the interview. The next thing, that's the third stage, has to do with the train data collectors. Some interviews, you don't need to go and do everything yourself. You can have a system whereby you can employ the service of the research assistants. You understand? In most cases, looking at the nature of our research, we invite research assistants because of the nature of the interview, especially in-depth interview, that it takes time. You can invite people, but you don't only invite people and say you should do this for you. No, you should train them. That's the next thing. You have to train the data collectors, the interviewers, the people we are going to use. So you need to identify and train them also. Give them training for data collection. Where necessary, use interviewers that speak the local language. That's what it means. If you want to do that, identify the people that have relevant knowledge of the environment where you are going to do your interview. That's what it means. Don't go and bring anybody. Like we just finished a program yesterday. When we took our participant to the field for a field trip, we went there. Somebody who is an Igbo man was trying to force himself to volunteer and say that he will be the one that will be interpreting. We said, no, you can't interpret correctly because you don't understand. These people speak Hausa and the native language. Do you understand the language? So we had to identify someone that can understand Hausa and speak Hausa very well. And that's how we go about it, how we went about it. Because we have started, they said something when he was interpreting, he didn't interpret correctly. I had to stop them. I said, no, what he says is not correct. So always look for somebody who has local knowledge of the environment, who understands the language of the people you are going to interview. It's always very, very important. So regardless of what experience data collectors have, training should include an introduction to the evaluation of the objectives, a review of data collection techniques. They have to know the techniques. A thorough review of the data collection items and instruments, practice in the use of the instrument, skill building exercise on interviewing. Of course, you need to know what they should do under what circumstance. At a certain point in time, you may ask questions that is provocative. So you will guide them on what to say that will not provocate their respondents. All these things need to be, and you also educate them on the ethical consideration, ethical issues in the process of the interview. The next stage is the data collection stage. The data collection stage. Set up interview with stakeholders. That is where you go to the field now. After you have done it, you send your research assistant to the field and begin the collection of your data from the various respondents. Now, having gone to the field, collected your data, what next? Is to analyze your data analysis. And how do I start? The first thing you need to do, if you have recorded your data, the first thing is to transcribe your data. If it is recorded, you play it. As you are playing it, listening, you are writing it down. Then you review it too. You understand? The next thing is to analyze all interview data. You understand? You analyze all interview data. Having transcribed it, then you analyze it. In the analysis, I think we have to place special time, because most of the time when we are doing discussion about that, we concentrate more on the quantitative approach. But most of the students do not have the preliminary knowledge of how to analyze qualitative data. I think I will create time in our subsequent discussion and discuss about how to analyze qualitative data too. So there are some tips on analyzing interview data. You should read through the interview responses and look for patterns or themes among the participants. That's what you need to do. The patterns in relation to your objectives. Identify the themes in their responses. And while you are identifying that, you should bear in mind your research objectives. That is very, very important. If you get a variety of themes, see if you can group them in one meaningful way, such as by type of participant. You may, for example, find that younger participants tend to think and feel differently from older. So you can categorize them into two. If the response from the older people tends to move toward a particular direction, for the younger one toward the different direction, you can group them on that basis. That's what it means. You can also identify the responses that seem to have been given with enthusiasm, as opposed to that the participant answer in only a few words. So, having done the analysis, yes, you have finished the analysis. Based on the analysis, you have done it, you have arrived conclusion.
and everything. What next is to disseminate your findings, and this has to do with the coming up with the research report. With the research report, you understand? You come with the research report, solicit feedback from interviewees and program stakeholders, revise it, then disseminate the results to the society, especially if it is what do you call it, an action research or applied research, a research that is meant to address a particular problem at a point in time. In that case, you have to disseminate it to the stakeholders so that they can know how they should go about addressing the problem, or address the purpose for which the problem was actually investigated. Then potential sources of information in the interview has to do with the potential sources of information in the interview, in-depth interview, include policymakers, project staff, maybe clinical staff, and so on. So you don't involve everybody. In other words, you have to look for people who have in-depth knowledge about the subject matter. They are the potential sources of information, not all kinds of people. You know, that's why in in-depth interview, we give you an interview. You have to identify the stakeholder who have in-depth knowledge of the subject matter or what you are trying to investigate. That's very, very important. Of what advantage is this type of methods? The first advantage of the in-depth interview is that they provide much more detailed information than what is available through other data. Of course, in-depth interview, that's why it's called in-depth. In-depth means to get something that is that provides vast information about a given phenomenon. You understand? Something that provides vast information about a given phenomenon. So you and it's usually used when you are doing a survey research in most cases. You understand? The second advantage is that they also may provide a more relaxed atmosphere in which to collect information. Of course, under in the interview, you give the respondent the time. Unlike the questionnaire where the respondent will be limited to certain options. Under this one, you are free to say your mind about a given question asked to you. You say whatever you know about it. Under the last condition, you are not under any pressure, and you can even speak the language you can speak. It's the duty of the researcher to take account of the language you are speaking, put it down. If he doesn't, that's the essence of trying to bring in the research assistant that can understand the language of the community within which an interview is taking place. You understand? Then it has some limitations, and one limitation is prone to bias, of course, because program or clinical staff may want to prove that a program is working. The interview response may be biased. Response from community members and program participants could also be biased due to their stake in the program or for a number of other reasons. Yeah, whether we like it or not, at a certain point in time, because we are part and parcel of a game program, we will not be able to come out and say, okay, we are wrong. Nobody tells you it's wrong if it's wrong. Nobody tells you. But people accept they are wrong when it is pointed out to them that they are wrong. People accept that. People are saying, I'm in a class. People accept that they are wrong whenever they are told that they are in the class. They are wrong. You understand? The second issue, pitfall or limitation, has to do with it can be time intensive, time consuming because it takes time. Interview method takes time. Yes. It takes a lot of time. You go out there, interact with people individually. You come and sit down and transcribe it. Come and sit down and evaluate it before you start categorizing all the information. Oh, it takes a lot of time, unlike the other ones. Then the next limitation is that the interviewer must be appropriately trained in interviewing techniques. You understand? So if they are not properly trained, there must be a problem. And in doing that, that takes a lot of time. It's another serious task on the part of the interviewer. And another problem with it is that the in-depth interview result is not generalizable. You can't generalize it. You can, that's why we say it is most appropriate when you are dealing with a small group of people in a given society. And therefore, whatever you have generated among them, it can be generalized. It only speaks about the character of the people you have examined, the category of the people you have examined. But it can't tell you about the general conduct of the society because other members of the society do not know what you're talking about. And that's why when you are selecting the people, the source of information, you go to the people that have knowledge of what you're trying to do. Am I communicating? So that's part of the problem. I think I will stop here and listen to you whether you have questions, contribution, observation. I think what remains for us is to talk about the focus group discussion, which I believe we can address that. That will be the last method we are going to discuss. Then I believe we can be able to do that before our next class on Saturday next week. All right, questions?
Yes, Prof.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, my name is Luca Boko.
Mm-hmm.
My question is, in fact, you have raised it already, that this issue of analyzing qualitative data is a problem for most of us, which I have also observed. But
Exactly.
but my question is based on hypothesis, null and alternate hypothesis. So,
Yes.
most of us, we are not used to all this. We have our own fields. So most of us don't know how
Hypothesis
to...
is not part of the qualitative research, and I say that in-depth interview is used when you are using qualitative research. You only use hypothesis when you are doing quantitative research.
Okay,
I'm going to
okay, Prof.
demonstrate that practically in our physical class because our physical class next week will involve some statistical demonstration.
We need this one because formulating hypothesis on qualitative research is always a
I will help
problem
you
for
with
us.
that. I will help you with that.
Okay,
Don't worry,
Prof.
next week.
Okay,
Because
Prof.
in fact, I'm not supposed to even explain that to you virtually. It has to be practical.
Okay,
It has
fine.
to be practical so that you can see it clearly.
So thank you, Prof.
We'll consult a
Hello,
hypothesis together. Yes.
hello,
Yeah,
Prof.
maybe Prof, you create time so that because we have been missing some of your lectures, and then we have a lot of questions to ask from as far as I know. So maybe you can give us more time when you are around so that we can be able to ask you.
You said? I didn't get you.
I'm saying that maybe you add time when you come to see us physically, maybe 2 to
No
3
problem. I
hours.
don't have a problem with that. I don't have a problem
Please.
with that.
Okay, Prof. Yes,
No
Prof.
problem. No problem. In fact, on that day,
Hello, Prof.
I will give you I will give you the opportunity to ask all the questions that you think you can ask from what we have said so far.
And the nature of the
Yes.
exam.
Yes.
Okay, Prof.
Hello, Prof.
No problem.
Prof.
Yeah.
Hello,
Yes.
Prof.
Yes, I'm with you.
My name is Victor Egbe.
Okay.
Sorry, help me be able to differentiate. You said that we're talking about two approaches to observation. You talked about the
Yes.
participant observation and non-participant observation. I believe
Yes.
whichever case involves the researcher being actively
Mm.
involved in the observation, whether it's participant based or non-participant based. Then you proceeded to talk about this in-depth
Mm.
interview. Um, yeah,
Mm.
say that
Love.
yes, the interview is for small groups. How does in-depth interview, or let me just put it like this, is it a clear boundary between observation and interview? So observation doesn't involve
Yes.
interview. So there's
Yes.
a clear boundary. I cannot use
There is
interview
a
when I'm
very
observing.
clear boundary.
Sure.
Okay.
Yes, there are two different things.
Yeah.
Okay.
There are two different things. They are not the same. In the in-depth
Okay.
interview, you go with your interview guide, you engage the interviewees one after the other in an interaction. You talk to them, you
Okay.
ask them questions, they respond to your questions. But in observation, that is not the case. That's not the approach.
I'm not asking
Yes.
questions. I'm just looking at observing
Uh,
myself. Okay.
yeah, observing and taking note of what is happening. And in a few situations, few circumstances, you can ask questions, ask people about why are things happening the way they're happening. They will tell you. It's not that you will not ask questions completely during observation. You can ask a few questions, but in this case, in that interview, even before you start, you have a list of guides on the issues you are going to ask questions on, unlike the observation. Are you getting it?
Yes.
So
But I think in any case, two of them should be used for small groups because you can't observe a
yes,
very large group.
they are all used for small group of people. Yes. You know, all
Prof.
qualitative instrument in data collection, the qualitative approach is mostly used when you are trying to look at an issue from within a small group of people. Do you understand? It's not, you can't use for HGD or IGI, that's in the interview or focus group discussion, to look at a study that involved the entire members of a local government area. It's not possible. No. But you can use that to look at the situation in a particular ward in a given local government area, where you can use focus group discussion, for example, to select a different categories of people, grouping them into on the basis of their similar characteristics and interact with them. Is that okay?
Okay. For the entire local government area, what would you recommend? What approach?
It's either questionnaire or structured interview. Structured interview is like a questionnaire, like I told you. But sometimes why we use it is because if you are dealing with a non-literate population, that you have to go and be reading the question for them, tell them the answer, they choose the one they want, then you tick it for them. You understand? It's like an interview, but you are the one telling them, asking them the question, telling them the option. When they choose the option, then you tick for them. That's what you mean by a social interview. So in most cases, people use questionnaire. For the large group, is questionnaire.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, welcome. Any other question? No question. All right. So thank you very much for your patience. Like I said, I will come around on Saturday next week so that we can meet and discuss the statistical aspect of the work. But if we are opportune to also create another time to meet, we can still do that. Thank you very much. And
thank you, Prof.
Thank you, Prof.
Okay, who is raising up his hand?
Thank you, Prof.
Okay, what is it?
Sir, we've not gotten materials for this course.
Remember the days we were young, wild and free, basic getting